Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved on the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided between the light and the darkness, and God called the light day, and he called the darkness night, and the evening and morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, and the evening and morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and he called the gathering together of the waters seas. And God saw that it was good, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth tender sprouts, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth tender sprouts, and the herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed was in itself. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and morning were the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens, to divide between the day and the night. And let there be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens, to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the smaller light to rule the night, and the stars also. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide between the light and the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and morning were the fourth day. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that has life, and the fowls that fly over the earth in the open expanse of the heavens." And God created great sea animals, and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth." And the evening and morning were the fifth day. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creatures after its kind, cattle and creeping things, and each animal of the earth after its kind." And it was so. And God made the animal of the earth after its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." And so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. He created them male and female. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree which has in it the fruit of a tree yielding seed. I have given it to you, and it shall be for you food. And to every living thing of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, which has life in it, there shall be every greenness of herbage for food." And it was so. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Genesis chapter 2. And the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work, which God created to make. Now these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth, when they were created. In that day the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God caused every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food, to grow. The tree of life also was in the middle of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it was divided and became 4 heads. And the name of the first is Pishon. That is it which surrounds all the land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. And there is Delum, and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. It is the same that surrounds the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, and that is which goes toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may eat freely of every tree of the garden, but you shall not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper for him. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every animal of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was the name of it. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowls of the air, and to every animal of the field. But there was not found a helper for Adam. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in its room. And the Lord God made the rib which he had taken from the man into a woman. And he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more crafty than any living thing of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Really, has God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You shall not surely die. For God knows that in the day that you eat of it, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as God, knowers of good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasing to the eye, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. And she took of the fruit of it, and ate, and gave it also unto her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the sound of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God in the midst of the trees of the garden. And the Lord called to Adam, and said to him, Where are you? And he said, I heard thy sound in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded that you should not eat of it? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said to the woman, What is this that you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the cattle, and more than every animal of the field. You shall go upon your belly, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He will bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And unto the woman he said, I will greatly increase your sorrow and conception. In pain you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be toward your husband, and he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, Ye shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In pain shall you eat of it all the days of your life. It shall also bring forth thorns and thistles to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. And in the sweat of your face ye shall eat bread until you return into the ground. For out of it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and unto his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins, and clothe them. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from which he had been taken. And so he drove out the man, and he placed cherubims at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. Chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Jehovah. And again she bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And as time went on, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock, and of the fat of it. And the Lord had respect to Abel and to his offering, but he did not have respect to Cain and to his offering. And Cain was angry, and his face fell. And the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? Why did your face fall? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin crouches at the door, and its desire is for you, and you shall rule over it. And Cain talked with his brother Abel, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel, and killed him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is your brother Abel? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. And now you are cursed more than the ground which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it will not again give its strength to you. And you shall be a vagabond and a fugitive in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out from the face of the earth today, and I shall be hidden from thy face. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that any one who finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore whoever kills Cain shall suffer revenge 7 times. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, so that any one who found him should not kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and lived in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And Irad was born to Enoch, and Irad fathered Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Methusael, and Methusael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took 2 wives to himself. The name of the first was Adah, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents, and of those who have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who handled the harp and the organ. And Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain, the hammerer of every engraving tool of bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Listen to my speech. For I have killed a man because of my wound, and a young man because of my blow. If Cain shall be avenged 7 times, truly Lamech 70 times 7. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth. For she said, God has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And there was also born a son to Seth, and he called his name Enos. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. Chapter 5, Genesis chapter 5. Now this is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them male and female, and blessed them, and he called their name Adam in the day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and he fathered a son in his own likeness after his own image, and he called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had fathered Seth were 800, and he fathered sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and he fathered Enos. And after he fathered Enos, Seth lived 807 years. He fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and fathered Canaan. And after he fathered Canaan, Enos lived 815 years. And he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years and fathered Mahalaleel, and after he fathered Mahalaleel, Canaan lived 840 years, and he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years and fathered Jared. And after he fathered Jared, Mahalaleel lived 830 years, and he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years and fathered Enoch. And after he fathered Enoch, Jared lived 800 years, and he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and fathered Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God 300 years after he fathered Methuselah. And he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and then he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years and fathered Lamech. And after he fathered Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and fathered a son, and he called his name Noah, saying, This one shall comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And after he fathered Noah, Lamech lived 595 years. And he fathered sons and daughters, and all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old. And Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis chapter 6. And when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and when daughters were born to them, it came to pass that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were very beautiful, and they took wives for themselves from all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, since he is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. And there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore sons to them, the same became mighty men, who were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it grieved the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and made him sorrowful at heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it grieves me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make you an ark of gopher wood. You shall make rooms in the ark, and you shall pitch it inside and outside with pitch. And this is the way that ye shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it shall be 50 cubits, and the height of it shall be 30 cubits. And you shall make a window in the ark, and you shall finish it above to a cubit. And ye shall set the door of the ark in the side of it. Ye shall make it with lower, second, and third stories, and behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, in order to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life, from under the heavens. And everything which is in the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons, and your wife, and your sons' wives, and you. And ye shall bring into the ark 2 of every kind, of every living thing of all flesh, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, 2 of every kind shall come to you to keep them alive. Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind. And take unto you of all the food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to you, and it shall be for food, for you and for them. And Noah did so according to all that God had commanded him, so he did. Genesis chapter 7. And the Lord said to Noah, You and all your house come into the ark, for I have seen you righteous before me in this generation. You shall take to you every clean animal by 7s, the male and the female, and take 2 of the animals that are not clean, the male and the female. Also take of the fowls of the air by 7s, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For in 7 more days I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And I will destroy from off the face of the earth every living thing that I have made. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives went in with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. And there went in unto Noah unto the ark 2 and 2, the male and female, of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creeps upon the earth, as God had commanded Noah. And after 7 days it came to pass that the waters of the flood were upon the earth, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, in the 17th day of the month, were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heavens were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In this same day Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his son with them, entered into the ark. And they went in, and every animal after its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth after its kind, every fowl after its kind. every bird of every sort. And they went in unto the ark with Noah, 2 and 2 of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God has commanded them. And the Lord shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bore up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. The waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. And the waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh that moved upon the face of the earth died, of birds, of cattle, of animals, and of every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land, died. And every living thing that was on the face of the earth was destroyed, from man to cattle, to the creeping things and the fowls of the heavens. And they were destroyed from the earth, and only Noah was left, and those that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Chapter 8. Genesis chapter 8. And God remembered Noah, and every living thing, and all the cattle which were with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Also the fountains of the deep and the windows of heavens were stopped. And the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days the water had gone down. And in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. And the tops of the mountains were seen in the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month. And at the end of 40 days it came to pass that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent forth a raven. And it went out, going out and returning, until the waters were dried up from off the earth. And he also sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters had gone down from off the face of the earth. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned to him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put out his hand and took her and pulled her unto himself into the ark. And he waited yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. And so Noah knew that the waters had gone down from the earth. And he waited yet another 7 days, and sent forth a dove, and she did not return again to him any more. And in the 601st year, at the beginning of the day of the 1st month, it came to pass that the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the earth was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons wives with you. Bring out every living thing that is with you, of all flesh, of fowl, of cattle, of every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, so that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every animal, every fowl, and every creeping thing which creeps upon the earth after their families went forth out of the ark. And Noah built an altar unto the Lord, and he took of every clean animal and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet odor. And the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, even though the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite every living thing as I have done. And while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Genesis chapter 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and he said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon the animals of the earth, and upon every bird of the air, upon all that moves on the earth, and upon all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. I have given you all things, even as the green herb, but ye shall not eat of flesh with life in it, or the blood of it. And surely the blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every animal will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoever sheds blood, his blood shall be shed. For God made man in the image of God. And you be fruitful and multiply, and bring forth abundantly in the earth, and increase in it. And God spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, Behold, I, even I, establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the birds and of the cattle, and every animal of the earth with you, from all that go out from the ark to every animal of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for everlasting generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass that when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant which is between me and you, and every living creature of all flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh, and the bow shall be in the cloud. And I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. And the sons of Noah that went out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. And these are the three sons of Noah, and the whole earth was overspread from them. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunk, and he was uncovered inside his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his brothers outside. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and they went backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backwards, and they did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and came to know what his younger son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be their servant. And Noah lived 350 years after the flood, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died.
We are reading today from the book of Genesis, chapter 10, regarding the descendants of the sons of Noah. That's Genesis, chapter 10. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Medai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Raamah, and Sabtika, and the sons of Raamah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, Even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Achad, and Calneh, and the land of Shinar. Out of that land went forth Ashur, and builded Nineveh, and the city of Rehoboth, and Calah. And Resen, between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Misrahim begat Ludim, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Nephtahim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. And Canaan begat Sidon his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Harmathite, and afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza, as thou goest unto Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham, after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz, and Hol, and Girther, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Selah, and Selah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan begot Almadad, and Sheleph, and Hazar Mavrath, and Jerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Misha, as thou goest unto Sephar, a mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem, after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations. These are the families of the sons of Noah, after their generations, in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
Genesis chapter 11. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech, and as they traveled from east they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they lived there, and they said to one another, Come, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they all have one language. And this they began to do. Now nothing which they have imagined to do will be restrained from them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so that they cannot understand one another's speech. And so the Lord scattered them abroad from that place upon the face of all the earth, and they quit building the city. Therefore the name of it is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth there, and the Lord scattered them abroad upon the face of all the earth from that place. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And after he fathered Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Arpachshad lived 35 years, and fathered Selah. And after he fathered Selah, Arpachshad lived 403 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Selah lived 30 years, and fathered Eber. And after he fathered Eber, Salah lived 403 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Eba lived 34 years, and fathered Peleg. And after he fathered Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and fathered Reu. And he fathered Reu. Afterwards he lived 209 years, and fathered sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years, and fathered Serug. And after he fathered Serug, Reu lived 207 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and fathered Nahor. And after he fathered Nahor, Serug lived 200 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and fathered Terah. And after he fathered Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, and he fathered sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and fathered Abram, also Nahor and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah fathered Abraham, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot, and Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves, and the name of Abraham's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarah was barren, she had no child, and Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and he went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and lived there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord said to Abraham, Go out of your country, and from your kindred, and from your father's house, into a land that I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great, and ye shall be a blessing. I will bless those that bless you, and curse the one who curses you. And in you shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And so Abram departed, even as the Lord had spoken to him. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gained in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And they came into the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, unto the place of Moreh. And the Canaanite was in the land at that time, and the Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will give you this land to your seed. And he built an altar there unto the Lord who appeared to him. And he moved from there to a mountain on the east of Bethel. And he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And he built an altar there to the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down into Egypt to stay there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said to Sarah his wife, Behold, now I know that you are a beautiful woman to look upon. Therefore when the Egyptians see you, they shall say, This is his wife. And they will kill me, but they will save you alive. I pray you, say that you are my sister, so that it may be well with me for your sake. And my soul shall live because of you. And when Abram had come into Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And the princes of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house, and he treated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he-asses, and men servants, and maidservants, and she-asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she was my sister? And so I was about to take her to me as wife. Now therefore, behold your wife, take her and go away. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. Genesis chapter 13. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot was with him. And they went into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, and silver, and gold, and he went on his journey from the south, even to Bethel, to the place where his tent had been from the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And Abram called on the name of the Lord there. And Lot, who went with Abraham, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might live together, for their substance was great, so that they could not live together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite lived in the land. And Abram said to Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray you, between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen. For we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? I pray you, separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if you go to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as you come to Zoar. Then Lot chose all the plain of Jordan for himself, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves from one another. And Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord, exceedingly so. And the Lord said unto Abraham, after Lot was separated from him, Lift up your eyes now, and look from the place where you are, to the north, and to the south, and eastward, and to the west. For all the land which you see I will give to you, and to your seed forever. And I will make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can count the dust of the earth, then shall your seed also be counted. Rise up and walk through the land, in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it to you. Then Abraham moved his tent and came to live in the plains of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he built an altar unto the Lord there. Genesis chapter 14. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Eleasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of the nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemmeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. And all these were joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the salt sea. And they served Chedorlaomer 12 years. In the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him came and struck the Rephaims in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shaveh Kerathamim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, as far as Elparan, which is in the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and struck all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who lived in Hazezon Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the valley of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, the king of the nations, and Amraphel, the king of Shinar, and Arioch, the king of Eleasar. 4 kings with 5. And the valley of Siddim had many asphalt pits. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and went their way. And they took Lot, Abram's brother, who lived in Sodom, and all his goods, and went away. And there came one who had escaped, and he told Abraham the Hebrew, for he lived in the plains of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Anar, and these had a covenant with Abraham. And when Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, he led forth his trained servants born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. And he divided himself against them by night, he and his servants. And he struck them and pursued them into Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him in the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's valley. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. And he was a priest of the Most High God, and he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abraham, Give me the people, and take the goods for yourself. And Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up my hand to the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take anything that is yours, not from a thread even to a shoestring, lest you say, I have made Abraham rich. But I will take only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. Genesis chapter 15. And after these things the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abraham, I am your shield, and your exceeding great reward. And Abraham said, Lord God, what wilt thou have me to do, since I am childless? And the steward of my house is Eleazar of Damascus. And Abraham said, Behold, thou hast given no seed to me, and behold, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, This one shall not be your heir, but he that shall come forth out of your own bowels shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look now toward the heavens, and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So shall your seed be. And Abraham believed in God, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, by what shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took himself all these things unto himself, and divided them in the middle, and laid each piece against one another. But he did not divide the birds. And when the birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and behold, a great horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abraham, You must surely know that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also I will judge that nation whom they shall serve. And afterward they shall come out with a great substance. And you shall go to your fathers in peace, and ye shall be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In that same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Chapter 16, Genesis chapter 16. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bore him no children, and she had a maid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said to Abram, Behold, now the Lord has kept me from bearing. I pray you, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may get children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife, after Abraham had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said to Abraham, My wrong be upon you. I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and you. But Abraham said to Sarah, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Do to her as it pleases you. And when Sarah dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, where did you come from? And where will you go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarah. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress, and submit yourself under her hands. The angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, so that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and ye shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man, his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall live in the presence of all his brothers. And she called the name of the Lord who had spoken to her, Thou God of vision. For she said, Have I also looked after him that sees me here? Therefore the well was called Beer-lahai-roi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abraham a son. And Abraham called his son's name which Hagar bore Ishmael. And Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham. Chapter 17, Genesis chapter 17. And when Abraham was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but you shall be called Abraham. For I have made you a father of many nations. And I will make you exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you and to your seed after you. And I will give the land in which you are a stranger to you, and to your seed after you, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, Ye shall keep my covenant, therefore, you and your seed after you, in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised. And ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man-child in your generations. He that is born in the house, or bought with money, of any stranger who is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money, must be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And God said to Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but her name shall be Sarah. And I will bless her, and give you a son also of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be from her. And Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son indeed, and ye shall call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. He shall father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took his son Ishmael, and all that were born in his house, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins in the selfsame day, even as God said unto him. And Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the same day Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his house that were born in his house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. Genesis chapter 18. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre. And he sat at the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door, and bowed himself toward the ground. And he said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, do not pass away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray thee, be brought, and wash thy feet, and rest under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and you may comfort your hearts. And after that you shall pass on, for therefore you are come to your servant. And they said, Do so as you have said. And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran out to the herd, and brought a calf, tender and good. And he gave it unto a young man, and he hurried to dress it. And he took butter and milk and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah your wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah your wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and far gone in days, and it had ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I am past age shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord said unto Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I, who am old, truly bear a son? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return again, according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Then Sarah denied, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but you did laugh. And the men arose from there and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham was with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do? When Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the persons of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he spoke to them. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. And if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces away from there, and went toward Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Perhaps there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are in it? Far be it from thee to act in this manner, to kill the righteous with the wicked. And far be it from thee that the righteous should be as the wicked. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord, who am but dust and ashes. Perhaps there will be 5 lacking from the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 45, I will not destroy it. And he spoke unto him yet again, and said, Perhaps there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Perhaps there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Lo, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Perhaps there shall be 20 found there. And the Lord said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, Oh, do not let the Lord be angry, and I will speak only once more. Perhaps 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left off talking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis chapter 19. We begin reading now chapter 19. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at the evening time, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot rose up to meet them when he saw them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and said, Behold now, my lords, I pray you return into your servant's house, and stay all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go your ways. And they said, No, but we will stay in the street all night. But he urgently pressed on them, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in unto you this night? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. And Lot went out to the door unto them, and shut the door after him. And he said, I pray you, brothers, do not do so with me. Behold, now I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. I pray you, let me bring them out unto you, and you do to them as is good in your eyes. But do nothing unto these men, for therefore they came under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said, This one came in to stay, and he must needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. And they pressed hard upon the man Lot, and came near to breaking the door. But the men put out their hands, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Have you any one here besides yourself? Bring your sons-in-laws, and your sons, and your daughters, and whatever you have in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them has grown great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke with his sons-in-law, who married his daughters, and said, Get up, and get out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked to his sons-in-law. And when the morning rose up, then the angels hurried Lot, saying, Rise up, take your wife and your daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the angel laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth, and set him outside the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought him outside, that he said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stay in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest you be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O no, Lord, pray. Behold, now thy servant has found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown to me in the saving of my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto thee, and it is a little one. O let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted you concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. You hurry and escape there, for I cannot do anything till you have come there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar, and then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the city, that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the lands of the plain, and saw, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. When God destroyed the cities of the plain, it came to pass that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and lived in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. For he feared to live in Zoar, and he and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man in the earth to come in unto us in the way of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he did not notice when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the next day that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and you go in and lie down with him, so that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he did not notice when she lay down, nor when she arose. And so both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. And the firstborn bore a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger also bore a son, and called his name Ben-Ammi. And the same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. Chapter 20, Genesis chapter 20. And Abraham journeyed from there toward the south country, and lived between Kadesh and Shur, and stayed in Gerar. And Abram said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech the king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, Behold, you are as dead for the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou also kill a righteous nation? Did he not say unto me, She is my sister? And she herself said, He is my brother. In the sincerity of my heart and the innocency of my hands I have done this. And God said to him in a dream, Yes, I know that you did this in sincerity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not allow you to touch her. Now therefore restore his wife to the man, for he is a prophet, and he shall pray for you, and ye shall live. And if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were greatly afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said to him, What have you done unto us? In what have I offended you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What did you see that you have done this thing? And Abraham says, Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will kill me for my wife's sake. And yet truly she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, This is your kindness which you show unto me. At every place that we shall come, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen, and men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and he restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you. Live where it pleases you. And Sarah, he said, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to you a covering of the eyes, unto all that are with you, and with all others. And so she was reproved. And so Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech, and his wife and his maidservants, and they bore children. For the Lord had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Chapter 21, Genesis chapter 21. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said. And the Lord did unto Sarah as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived, and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son that was born unto him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, so that all who hear will laugh with me. And She said, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah should have suckled children? For I have borne a son to him in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Therefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. And God said to Abraham, Let it not be grievous in your sight because of the boy and because of your bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said unto you, listen to her voice. For in Isaac your seed shall be called. And also I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder. And he gave her the boy, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water was gone in the bottle, and she cast the boy under one of the shrubs. And she went and sat down across from him a good way off, about a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the boy. And she sat over against him, and lifted up her voice, and cried. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven, and said to her, What ails you, Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of the boy, where he is. Rise up, lift up the boy, and hold him up with your hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave drink to the boy. And God was with the boy, and he grew and lived in the wilderness, and became an archer. And he lived in the wilderness of Paran. And his mother took a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son. But you shall do unto me according to the kindness that I have done to you, and to the land in which you have lived also. And Abram said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing, neither did you tell me, neither have I even heard of it, except today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, What are these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves? And he said, For you shall take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, so that they may be a witness unto me that I have dug this well. Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because they swore both of them there. And so they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his army, rose up, and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. And Abram planted a tree in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham lived in the Philistines' land many days. Genesis chapter 22. And it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold me. And he said, Take now your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will name to you. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, You stay here with the ass, and I and the boy will go up yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son, And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they both went together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Behold me, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. And so they both went together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son, and laid him upon the altar, upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to kill his son. And the angel of the Lord came unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Behold me. And he said, Do not lay your hand upon the boy, neither do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, behind him a ram was caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah-Jireh, as it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, because you have done this thing, have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed like the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. And so Abraham returned unto his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham lived at Beersheba. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, she also has borne children to your brother Nahor, Huz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jidlaph, and Bethuel. And Bethuel fathered Rebekah. And these 8 did Milcah bear to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she also bore Tebah, and Gaham, and Thahash, and Maacah. Chapter 23. Genesis chapter 23. And Sarah was 127 years old, and these were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kirjath Arba, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. And Abraham stood up before his dead, and spoke unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a visitor with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, so that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choice of our burying places. None of us shall withhold from you his burying place, from burying your dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land and the children of Heth, and he spoke with them, saying, If it is your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and ask for me of Ephraim, the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. For as much money as it is worth, he shall give it to me for a possession of a burying place among you. And Ephraim lived among the children of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the ears of the children of Heth, of all that went in at the gate of the city, saying, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field, and the cave that is in it. I give it to you. In the presence of the sons of my people I give it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people of the land. And he spoke unto Ephraim in the ears of the people of the land, saying, Only if you would please hear me, I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephraim answered Abraham, saying unto him, My lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Therefore bury your dead. And Abraham listened unto Ephraim, and Abraham weighed to Ephraim the silver which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, which passes with the merchant. And the field of Ephraim, which was Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders round about, were made sure unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. And after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave at the field of Machpelah before Mamre. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan, and the field and the cave that is in it were made sure to Abraham for a possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth. Chapter 24, Genesis chapter 24. And Abraham was old, far gone in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, I pray you, put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell. But you shall go to my country and to my kindred, and take a wife to my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I necessarily bring your son again to the land from which you came? And Abraham said to him, Take care that you do not bring my son there again. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house, and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke unto me, and who swore unto me, saying, Unto your seed I will give this land, he shall send his angels before you. And you shall take a wife unto my son from there, and if the woman will not be willing to follow you, then ye shall be clear from his oath. Only do not bring my son there again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning the matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his master, and departed, for all the goods of his master were in his hands. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, unto the city of Nahor. And he made his camels kneel down outside the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, the time that women go out to draw. And he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the young woman to whom I shall say, Let down your pitcher, I pray you, so that I may drink, and she shall say, Drink, and I will give your camels drink also, let it be her that thou hast appointed for thy servant Isaac, and by it I shall know that thou hast shown kindness to my master. And before he had finished speaking, it came to pass that, behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the young woman was very beautiful to look upon, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, I pray you, let me drink a little water of your pitcher. And she said, Drink, my lord. And she hurried, and let down her pitcher upon her hand, and gave him drink. And when she had finished giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also, until they have finished drinking. And she hurried, and emptied her pitcher in the trough, and ran again to the well to draw water. And she drew for all his camels. And the Lord was watching her, keeping silent, in order to know whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. And it came to pass, as the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden earring of a 1/2 shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for the hand, weighing 10 shekels of gold. And he said, Whose daughter are you? I pray you, tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to stay in? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore unto Nahor. And she said to him, We have both straw and fodder enough, and room to lodge in. And the man bowed his head and worshipped the Lord. And he said, Blessed be the Lord, God of my master Abraham, who has not left my master destitute of his mercy and his truth. As for me, the Lord led me in the way to the house of my master's brothers. And the young woman ran and told her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out to the man to the well, and when he saw the earrings and the bracelets upon his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, So spoke the man to me, he came to the man, and behold, he stood by the camels at the well. And he said, Come in, blessed of the Lord, why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he unloaded his camels, and gave straw and fodder to the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men that were with him. And there was food set before him to eat. But he said, I will not eat until I have told my errand. And he said, Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant, and the Lord has blessed my master greatly. He has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold, and men servants and maid servants, and camels and asses. And Sarah my master's wife bore a son to my master when she was old, and he has given to him all that he has. And my master made me swear, saying, Ye shall not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live, but ye shall go to my father's house, and to my kindred, and take a wife to my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the women will not follow me. And he said to me, The Lord, before whom I walk, will send his angel with you, and prosper your way. And you shall take a wife for my son from my kindred, and from my father's house. Then shall you be clear from my oath when you come to my kindred, and if they do not give you one, you shall be clear from my oath. And I came this day to the well, and said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, if now thou dost prosper my way which I go, behold, I stand by the well of water. And it shall come to pass that when the virgin comes forth to draw water, and I say to her, Give me, I pray you, a little water from your pitcher to drink, and she says to me, Both you drink, and I will also draw for your camels, let the same be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. And before I finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder. And she went down to the well and drew water. And I said to her, I pray you, let me drink. And she hurried and let down her pitcher from her shoulder, and said, Drink, and I will give drink to your camels also. And so I drank, and she made the camels drink also. And I said to her, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore unto him. And I put the earrings upon her face, and the bracelets upon her hands. And I bowed down my head and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham, who had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter to his son. And now, if you will deal kindly and truthfully with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me so that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing has come forth from the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, even as the Lord has spoken. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped the Lord, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. And they ate and drank, he and the men that were with him, and stayed all night. And they rose up in the morning and said, Send me away to my master. And her mother and brother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, rather 10, and that then she shall go. And he said to them, Do not hinder me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away, that I may go away to my master. And they said, We will call the young woman, and inquire at her mouth. And they called Rebekah, and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent away Rebekah their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, Our sister, be the mother of thousands of millions, and let your seed possess the gate of those who hate them. And Rebekah rose up and her young women, and they rode upon the camels, and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah, and went his way. And Isaac came from the way of the well of Lahairoi, for he lived in the south country. And Isaac went out to think things over in the field at the beginning of the evening. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she quickly alighted from the camel. For she had said to the servant, What man is this that walks in the field to meet us? And the servant said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Chapter 25, Genesis chapter 25. This is Family Bible Reading Fellowship. Then again Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua. And Jokshan fathered Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashrorim, Latushim, and Laummim. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, and Epher, Hanok, and Abadiah, and Eldaah. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But to the sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts. And he sent them away from Isaac his son while he still lived, eastward to the east country. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 175 years. Then Abraham gave up the spirit and died, in a good old age, old and satisfied. And he was gathered to his people, and his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave at Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre, the field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. And after the death of Abraham it came to pass that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac lived by the well at Lahairoi. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael was Nebajoth. Then came Kedar, and Abiel, and Mibsan, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, Timah, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and their castles, 12 princes according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the spirit and died, and was gathered to his people. And they lived from Havilah unto Shur, which is before Egypt as you go toward Assyria. And he died in the presence of all his brothers. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, and Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. And Isaac prayed unto the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord heard him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she says, If it is so, why am I this way? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kinds of people shall be separated from your bowels. The one shall be stronger than the other people, and the older shall serve the younger. And when her days were fulfilled, behold, twins were in her womb. And the first came out red all over, like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that his brother came out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. And Jacob was plain, a plain man living in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his deer meat, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob boiled pottage. And Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, I pray you, feed me with that red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom. And Jacob said, Sell me your birthright today. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point of dying, and what profit shall this birthright be to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. And he ate and drank and rose up and went away. And so Esau despised his birthright. Chapter 26, Genesis chapter 26. And there was a famine in the land, besides a famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him, and said, Do not go down into Egypt. Live in the land which I shall tell you of. Stay in this land, and I will be with you, and will bless you. For unto you and unto your seed I will perform the oath, which I swore unto Abraham your father. And I will make your seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give to your seed all these countries. And in your seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac lived in Gerar, and the men of the place asked him about his wife, and he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, My wife, lest the men of the place should kill him for Rebekah, because she was beautiful to look upon. And when he had been there a long time, it came to pass that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out through the window, and saw, and behold, Isaac was caressing Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac, and said, Behold, she surely is your wife. Why did you say, She is my sister? And Isaac said to him, Because I said, Lest I die on account of her. And Abimelech said, What is this that you have done to us? One of the people might have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. And Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Then Isaac sowed in that land, and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him, and the man became great. And he went forward and grew until he became very great. And he had possession of flocks and possessions of herds, and many household servants. And the Philistines envied him. For all the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with earth. And Abimelech said to Isaac, Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we are. And Isaac departed from there, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and lived there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water, which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And Isaac's servants dug in the valley, and found there a well of living water. And the herdsmen of Gerar strove with Isaac's herdmen, saying, The water's ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. And they dug another well, and they strove for that also. And he called the name of it Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not strive for that. And he called the name of it Rehoboth. And he said, For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. And he went from there to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham your father. Do not fear, for I am with you, and will bless you, and multiply your seed for my servant Abraham's sake. And he built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And Isaac's servants dug a well there. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzath, one of his friends, and Phicol, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said to them, Why do you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with you. And we said, Let there be now an oath between us and you, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, since we have not touched you, and since we have done nothing but good to you, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they ate and drank, and they rose up early in the morning, and swore to one another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And the same day it came to pass that Isaac's servants came and told him about the water, and he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beer-sheba unto this day. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took to wife Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Bashemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, who were a grief of mind to Isaac and to Rebekah. Chapter 27, Genesis chapter 27. And it came to pass, when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, so that he could not see, he called his oldest son Esau, and said to him, My son. And he said to him, Behold, here I am. And he said, Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore I pray you, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field, and hunt deer meat for me. And make tasty meat for me, such as I love, and bring it to me, so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. And Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. And Esau went to the field to hunt for deer meat, in order to bring it in. And Rebekah spoke to her son Jacob, saying, Behold, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, Bring me deer meat, and make me tasty meat, so that I may eat and bless you before the Lord, before my death. Therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the flock, and bring me from there 2 good kids of the goats. And I will make them tasty meat for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father, so that he may eat, and that he may bless you before his death. And Jacob said to his mother Rebekah, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. My father will perhaps feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, Your curse be upon me, my son, only obey my voice, and go bring them to me. And he went, and he took them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made tasty meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the costly garments of her older son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins from the kids of the goats on his hands and on the smooth of his neck. And she gave the tasty meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you asked me. Arise, I pray you, sit and eat of my deer meat, that your soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God brought it to me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Come near, I pray you, so that I may feel you, my son, whether you are truly my son Esau or not. And Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not know him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. And so he blessed him. And he said, Are you truly my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's deer meat, so that my soul may bless you. And he brought it near to him, and ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his clothing, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord has blessed. Therefore God give you of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve you, and let nations bow down to you. Be lord over your brothers, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. And cursed be every one that curses you, and blessed be he that blesses you." And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was scarcely gone from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting, and he also had made tasty meat, and brought it to his father. And he said unto his father, "Let my father arise, and eat of his son's deer meat, so that your soul may bless me." And his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." And Isaac trembled with a great trembling, and said, "Who? Where is he who has hunted deer, and brought it to me, and I have eaten of all before you came, and have blessed him? Yes, he shall be blessed." And when Esau heard the voice of his father, he cried with a great and exceedingly bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, O my father." And he said, "Your brother came with deceit, and has taken away your blessing." And he said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." And he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" And Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him your lord, and all his brothers I have given him for servants, and with corn and wine I have supported him. And what shall I do now to you, my son?" And Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by your sword you shall live, and shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass, when you have the dominion, you shall break his yoke from off your neck." And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." And these words of her older son Esau were told to Rebekah. And she went and called her younger son Jacob, and said to him, "Behold, your brother Esau comforts himself regarding you, intending to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, and arise. Flee to my brother Laban, to Haran, and stay with him a few days, until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I also be bereaved of both of you in one day?" And Rebekah said to Isaac, "I am weary of my life, because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth like these of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me?" We begin reading now Genesis chapter 28. And Isaac called Jacob, and blessed him, and commanded him, and he said to him, "You shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take a wife from there of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And may God Almighty bless you, and make you fruitful, and multiply you, so that you may be a multitude of people. And may he give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your seed with you, so that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham." And Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram, he ordered to take a wife from there, and that he had blessed him, he gave him a command, saying, "Ye shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan." And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Padan Aram. And when Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please Isaac his father, then Esau went to Ishmael, and took Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, unto the wives which he had, to be his wife. And Jacob went out from Beersheba, and went up to Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place, and stayed there all night, because the sun had set. And he took of the stones of that place, and put them down for pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it, and said, I am the Lord, God of Abraham your father, the God of Isaac. And the land on which you lie I will give to you and to your seed. And your seed shall be like the dust of the earth, and ye shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south. And in you and in your seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you in every place where you go. And I will bring you again into this land, for I will not leave you until I have done that which I have spoken of unto you. And Jacob awakened from his sleep, and he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and said, How fearful is this place! This is none other but the house of God. This is the very gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone which he had put down for his pillow, and set it up for a pillar, and poured oil on the top of it. And he called the name of the place Bethel. But the name of the city was Luz at first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come again unto my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me I will surely give the 10th unto thee. Chapter 29. Genesis chapter 29. Then Jacob went on his journey, and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field. And lo, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it, for they watered the flocks out of the well. And a great stone was upon the well's mouth, and all the flocks were gathered there, and they rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the sheep, and put the stone again upon the well's mouth in its place. And Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And behold, his daughter Rachel comes with the sheep. And he said, Lo, the day is yet high. It is not time for gathering the cattle together. Water the sheep, and go feed them. And they said, We cannot until all the flocks have been gathered together. And they rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. And while he still spoke with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban his mother's brother, then it came to pass that Jacob went near, and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flocks of Laban his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice, and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. And Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my brother, should you then serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the oldest was Leah, and the name of the youngest was Rachel. And Leah was weak of eyes, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me. And so Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days, for the love that he had for her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, so that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and made a feast. And in the evening he took his daughter Leah, and brought her to him. And he went in unto her, and Laban gave Zilpah his maid to his daughter Leah for a handmaid. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this that you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you tricked me? And Laban said, It must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give you this also for the service which you shall serve with me still another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled her week. And he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave Bilhah his maid to his daughter Rachel, to be her handmaid. And he also went in unto Rachel. He also loved Rachel more than Leah, and served with him still 7 more years. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, Surely the Lord has looked upon my afflictions. Now therefore my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Because the Lord has heard that I was hated, he has therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now this time my husband will return to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, Now I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah, and quit bearing. Chapter 30, Genesis chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. And she said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I will die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, so that I may also have children by her. And she gave him her handmaid Bilhah to wife. And Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has judged me, and has also heard my voice, and has given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. And Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With the wrestlings of God I have wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had quit bearing, she took her maid Zilpah, and gave her to Jacob to wife. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son, and Leah said, A troop comes. And she called his name Gad. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, I am happy, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest, and found May apples in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, I pray you, give me some of your son's May apples. And she said to her, It is a small matter, that you have taken my husband, and would you also take my son's May apples? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with you tonight for your son's May apples. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, You must come in unto me, for I have surely hired you with my son's May apples. And he lay with her that night, and God listened to Leah, and she conceived, and bore Jacob the 5th son. And Leah said, God has given me my hire, because I have given my maid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob the 6th son. And Leah said, God has presented me with a good dowry. Now my husband will live with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and she said, Now God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph. And she said, The Lord shall add another son to me. And when Rachel had borne Joseph, it came to pass that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, so that I may go into my own place and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service which I have done to you. And Laban said to him, I pray you, if I have found favor in your eyes, stay. For I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Appoint your wages, and I will give it. And he said to him, You know how I served you, and how your cattle were with me, for you had little before I came, and it has now increased to a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? And he said, What shall I give you? And Jacob said, You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep your flock. I will pass through all the flocks today, taking out all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all of the black sheep among the lambs, and the spotted and the speckled among the goats. And these shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, and it shall come for my hire before your face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted amongst the goats, and black among the sheep, shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, let it be according to your word. And that day he took out the he-goats that were striped and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white in it, and all the black from among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. And Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and the chestnut tree, and he peeled white streaks in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, so that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived in front of the rods, and brought forth striped cattle, speckled and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the striped, and all the black in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with the flock of Laban. And when the stronger flocks conceived, Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the flocks in the gutters, so that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were feeble, he did not put them in. And so the feebler ones were Laban's, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had many flocks, and maidservants, and manservants, and camels, and asses. Genesis chapter 31. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and he has gotten all this glory from that which was our father's. And Jacob saw the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flocks. And he said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before. But the God of my father has been with me, and you know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not allow him to hurt me. If he said, This, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And if he said this, the striped shall be your hire, then all the flocks bore striped. And so God has taken away the flocks of your father, and has given them to me. And at the time the cattle conceived, I lifted up my eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were striped, speckled, and mottled. And the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up your eyes, and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle, that they are striped, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban does to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now arise and get out from this land, and return to the land of your kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted strangers by him? For he has sold us, and has also entirely devoured our money. For all the riches which God has taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and wives upon camels, and he carried away all his flocks, and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting which he had gotten at Padam Aram, in order to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images which were her father's. And Jacob stole away the heart of Laban the Syrian, in that he did not tell him that he fled. And so he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and set his face toward Mount Gilead. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, and he took his brothers with him, and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said to him, Take heed that you do not speak either good or bad to Jacob. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brothers pitched in Mount Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done, that you have stolen away my heart, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with a sword? Why did you flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and with songs, and with tabret and with harp? And why have you not allowed me to kiss my sons and my daughters? You have done foolishly in so doing. It is the power of my hand to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Take heed that you do not speak either good or bad to Jacob. And now you have gone because you longed after your father's house. But why have you stolen my goods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid. For I said, Perhaps you would take your daughters away from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, let him not live. Before our brothers, choose what is yours with me, and take it to you, for Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the 2 maidservants, and he did not find them. And he went out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them into the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all the tent, but did not find them. But she said to her father, Let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before you, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but did not find the images. And Jacob was angry, and rebuked Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my trespass? What is my sin, that you have so hotly pursued after me? For you have searched all my stuff. What have you found of all your household stuff? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, that they may judge between us. I was with you 20 years. Your ewes and she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of your flocks I have not eaten. That which was torn I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it. You required it at my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen at night. So I was in the day, the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. So I have been 20 years in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 for your flocks, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my fathers, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely you would have sent me away empty. God has seen my affliction, and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these flocks are my flocks. All that you see is mine. And what can I do this day to those my daughters, or to their children, which they have borne? Now therefore come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be for a witness between you and me. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said to his brothers, Come, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jegar-sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, The heap is a witness between you and me this day. Therefore the name of it was called Galeed, and Mizpah, for he said, The Lord watch between you and me, when we are absent from one another. If you shall afflict my daughter, or if you shall take other wives besides my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this heap, behold this pillar, which I have cast between you and me. This heap is witness, and this pillar is witness, that I will not pass over the heap to you, and that you shall not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread, and stayed all night in the mountain. And early in the morning Laban rose up, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed, and returned to his place. Genesis chapter 32. Genesis chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is God's host. And he called the name of the place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother to the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, So shall you speak to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says thus, I have lived with Laban and stayed until now. And I have oxen and asses and flocks and men servants and women servants. And I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in your sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to your brother Esau, and also he comes to meet you, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, the flocks and the herds and the camels, into 2 bands. And he said, If Esau comes to the one company and strikes it, then the other company which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, Return unto your country and to your kindred, and I will deal with you, I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast shown thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I have become 2 bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. For I fear him, lest he come and strike me, and the mother with the children. And thou didst say, I will surely do you good, and make your seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. And he lodged there that night, and he took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, and 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hands of his servants, every drove by themselves. And he said to his servants, Pass over in front of me, and put a space between drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meets you, and asks you, saying, To whom do you belong, and where do you go, and to whom do these before you belong? Then you shall say, Your servant Jacob. It is a present sent to my lord Esau, and behold, he also is behind us. And so he commanded the second and the third and all that followed, the drove, saying, In this way ye shall speak to Esau when you find him. And moreover you shall say, Behold, your servant Jacob is behind us, for he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, and afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. And so the present went over before him, and he himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and set them over the brook, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled there with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For like a prince you have power with God and with men, and have prevailed. And Jacob asked and said, I pray thee, tell me thy name. And he said, Why is it that you ask after my name? And he blessed him there, and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel. For I have seen God's face here face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he limped upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel do not eat of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh until this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. Chapter 33. Genesis chapter 33. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and 400 men with him. And he divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto 2 handmaids, and he put the handmaids and their children first, and Leah and her children afterward, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he passed over in front of them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell upon his neck, and kissed him. And they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, and said, Who are these with you? And he said, The children which God has graciously given your servant. Then the handmaidens came near, they and their children, and they bowed themselves. And Leah also and her children came near, and bowed themselves. And afterward Joseph came near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he asked, What do you mean by all this drove which I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau says, I have enough, my brother, keep what you have yourself. And Jacob said, No, I pray you, if now I have found grace in your sight, then receive my present at my hand. For therefore have I seen your face as though I had seen the face of God, and you were pleased with me. I pray you, take my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before you. And he said to him, My Lord knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds with young are with me. And if the men should overdrive them one day, all the flocks will die. I pray you, let my Lord pass over before his servants, and I will lead on softly, according as the flocks that go before me and the children are able to endure, until I come to my Lord, to Seir. And Esau said, Let me now leave with you some of the folks that are with me. And he said, Why then? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. And so Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him a house, and made booths for his cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. And Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram. And he pitched his tent in front of the city, and he bought a piece of field there, where he had spread his tent, at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar, and he called it El-El-Ohi Israel. Chapter 34. Genesis chapter 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and lay with her, and defiled her. And his soul did cleave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl, and spoke kindly to the girl. And Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, Get me this girl for a wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they had come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard, and the men were grieved, and they were very angry, because he had done folly in Israel in lying with the daughter of Jacob. Now this thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. I pray you give her to him for a wife. And you make marriages with us, giving your daughters to us, and taking our daughters unto you. And you shall live with us, and the land shall be before you. Live and trade in it, and get possessions in it. And Shechem said to his father and to his brother, Let me find grace in your eyes, and whatever you shall say unto me I will give. Heap upon me ever so much price and dowry, and I will give according as you shall say unto me, but give me the girl for a wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father, speaking with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. But in this we will agree with you, if you will be as we are, that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will live with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will go. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son, and the young man did not hesitate to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of the city, and talked with the men of the city, saying, These men are at peace with us. Therefore let them live in the land, and trade in it. For the land, behold, is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men agree to live with us, to be one people, if every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will live with us. And all that went out of the gate of the city listened to Hamor and Shechem his son, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. And they took their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives they took captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house.
And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, Ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me, and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, Should he deal with our sister as with an harlot?
Genesis, the first book of the Bible, chapter 35. And God said to Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and live there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. Then Jacob said to his household and to all that were with him, Put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel. And I will make an altar there unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. And they gave all the strange gods which were in their hands to Jacob, and the earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. And so Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, he and all the people that were with him. And he built an altar there, and called the name of the place El Bethel, because God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother there. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried beneath Bethel under an oak, and the name of it was called Elon-Bachuth. And God appeared to Jacob again when he came out of Paddan Aram, and blessed him. And God said to him, Your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob any more, but Israel shall be your name. And he called his name Israel, and God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and kings shall come out of your loins. And the land which I gave unto Abraham and Isaac I will give to you, and to your seed after you I will give the land. And God went up from him in the place where he talked with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, a pillar of stone. And he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Jacob called the name of the place where God spoke to him, Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was only a little way to come to Ephrath. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass that she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, Do not fear, you shall have this son also. And it came to pass, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar upon her grave, and that is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. And Israel journeyed and spread his tent beyond the tower of Edar. And when Israel lived in that land, Reuben went by and lay with Bilhah his father's concubine. And Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, were Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padan Aram. And Jacob came unto Isaac his father, unto Mamre, unto the city of Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had lived. And the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac gave up the spirit and died, and was gathered unto his people, old and full of days. And his son Esau and Jacob buried him.
We're reading Genesis 36, the descendants of Esau. Genesis 36. Now these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Bashemoth, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebajoth. And Adah bare to Esau Eliphaz, and Bashemoth bare Reuel, and Aholibamah bare Jeush, and Jalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the persons of his house, and his cattle, and all his beasts, and all his substance, which he had got in the land of Canaan, and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. For their riches were more than that they might dwell together, and the land wherein they were strangers could not bear them because of their cattle. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Reuel, the son of Bashemoth, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Reuel: Nahath, and Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These were the sons of Bashemoth, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. And she bare to Esau Jeush, and Jalam, and Korah. These were dukes of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau: Duke Teman, Duke Omar, Duke Zepho, Duke Kenaz, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, and Duke Amalek. These are the dukes that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Reuel, Esau's son: Duke Nahath, Duke Zereth, Duke Shammah, Duke Missa. These are the dukes that came of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Bashemoth, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Aholibamah, Esau's wife. Duke Jeush, Duke Jehalam, Duke Korah. These were the dukes that came of Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these are their dukes. These are the sons of Seir the Horite, who inhabited the land, Lotan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anah, and Dishon, and Ezer, and Dishan. These are the dukes of the Horites, the children of Seir in the land of Edom. And the children of Lotan were Horai, and Hamam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. And the children of Shobal were these: Alvan, and Manahath, and Ebal, Shapho, and Onam. And these are the children of Zibeon, both Ajah and Anah. And this was the Anah that found the mules in the wilderness, as he fed the asses of Zibeon his father. And the children of Anah were these: Dishan, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Ammah. And these are the children of Dishan: Hemdan, and Eshban, and Ithran, and Sheran. The children of Azar are these: Bilhan, and Zavan, and Akan. The children of Dishan are these: Uz, and Aran. These are the dukes that came of the Horites: Duke Lotan, Duke Shobal, Duke Zibeon, Duke Anah, Duke Dishan, Duke Azar, Duke Dishan. These are the dukes that came of Horai, among their dukes in the land of Seir. And these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom, before there reigned any king over the children of Israel. And Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, reigned in his stead. And Jobab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. And Husham died, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, who smote Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead, and the name of his city was Avith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his stead. And Samlah died, and Saul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his stead. And Saul died, and Baal-Hanan, the son of Achbor, reigned in his stead. And Baal-Hanan, the son of Achbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his stead, and the name of his city was Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, and the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mesahab. And these are the names of the dukes that came of Esau, according to their families after their places, by their names: Duke Timnah, Duke Alva, Duke Jetheth, Duke Aholibamah, Duke Elah, Duke Pinon, Duke Kenaz, Duke Taman, Duke Mibzar, Duke Magdiel, Duke Iram. These are the dukes of Edom, according to their habitations in the land of their possession. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites.
Genesis chapter 37. And Jacob lived in the land in which his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. And these are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the boy was with the son of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought to his father an evil report of them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a coat of many colors, and when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. And Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brothers, and they hated him still more. And he said to them, I pray you, hear this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and bowed down to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have the rule over us? And they hated him still more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed still another dream, and told it to his brothers. And he said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. And he told it to his father and to his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow down ourselves to the earth before you? And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father observed the saying. And his brothers went to feed his father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Do not your brothers feed in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, I pray you, go see whether it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks. And bring me word again. And so he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What are you looking for? And he said, I am looking for my brothers. Tell me, I pray you, where do they feed? And the man said, They are gone from here, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brothers, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said to one another, Behold, this dreamer comes. Therefore come now, and let us kill him, and throw him into some pit. And we will say that some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, Shed no blood, throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, so that he might rescue him out of their hands to deliver him to his father again. And when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph out of his coat, the coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and threw him into a pit. And the pit was empty, with no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it if we should kill our brother and hide his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him. For he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then these passed by the Midianites, who were merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit. And they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers, and said, The child no longer is, and I, where shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father. And they said, We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's coat or not? And he knew it, and said, It is my son's coat. An evil beast has eaten him. Joseph is without doubt torn in pieces. And Jacob tore his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, For I will go down into the grave to my son mourning. And so his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, and captain of the guard. Genesis chapter 38. And at that time Judah went down from his brothers, and turned into a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her, and went in to her, and she conceived, and bore a son, and he called his name And she conceived again, and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet conceived, and bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. And she was at Shezib, when she bore him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, Go in unto your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to your brother. And Onan knew that the seed would not be his. And it came to pass, when he went into his brother's wife, that he spilled on the ground, lest he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did was evil in the eyes of the Lord, and therefore he killed him also. Then said Judah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at your father's house until Shelah my son is grown. For he said, Lest perhaps he die also, as his brothers did. And Tamar went and lived in her father's house. And as many days went by, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died, and Judah was comforted, and went up to his sheep shearer to Timnath, he and his friend Hira, the Adullamite. And it was told to Tamar, saying, Behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put off her widow's clothes, and covered herself with a veil, and wrapped herself. And she sat in an open place which is by the way to Timnath. And she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as wife. And when Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned aside to her by the wayside, and said, Come, I pray you, let me come in unto you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What will you give me, so that you may come in unto me? And he said, I will send a kid from the flock. And she said, Will you give me a pledge until you send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give you? And she said, Your signet, and your bracelet, and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it to her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose, and went away, and laid away her veil from her, and put on the clothes of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adullamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he could not find her. Then he asked the man of the place, saying, Where is the harlot who was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot here. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said, There was no harlot here. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be ashamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and you have not found her. And it came to pass after 3 months afterward that it was told Judah, saying, Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burned. And when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, I am with child by the man whose things these are. And she said, I pray you, observe whose things are these, the signet, and bracelets, and staff. And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She has been more righteous than I have, because I did not give Shelah my son to her. And he never knew her again. And in the time of her travail, behold, twins were in her womb. And when she travailed, it came to pass that one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And as he drew back his hand, it came to pass that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How have you torn a break for yourself? Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zara. Chapter 39. We're reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 39. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the hands of the Ishmaelites, who had brought him down there. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and he put into his hand all that he had. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake, And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had, in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know anything that he had, except the bread which he ate. And Joseph was beautiful in form and appearance. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said to his master's wife, Behold, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has given all that he has into my hand. There is none greater in this house than I am. Neither has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? And it came to pass, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie with her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that he came into the house to do his work. And none of the men of the house were inside, and she caught him by his robe, saying, Lie with me. And he left his robe in her hand, and fled, and got out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his robe in her hand, and had fled, she called to the men of her house, and spoke to them, saying, See, he has brought in a Hebrew to us to mock us. He came into me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And when he heard that, I lifted up my voice and cried, and he left his robe with me, and fled, and got out. And she laid up his robe beside her until his lord came home. And she spoke to him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant, which you have brought to us, came in to me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his robe with me and ran out. And when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, Your servant did this to me, his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison gave all the prisoners that were in the prison into Joseph's hand. And whatever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison did not look to anything under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Chapter 40, Genesis chapter 40. And after these things it came to pass that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was angry against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers, and he put them under guard in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued for a time under guard. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were bound in the prison. And Joseph came into them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers, who were with him under guard in his lord's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? I pray you, tell me. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as if it budded, and its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters of it brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days Pharaoh shall lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, just as you did when you were his butler. But think on me when it is well with you. And I pray you show kindness unto me, and make mention of me to Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into this dungeon. And when the chief baker saw the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, 3 white baskets were on my head. And in the top basket was all kinds of baked foods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days Pharaoh shall lift up your head from off you, and shall hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast to all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler back into his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker even as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Genesis chapter 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 cows, beautiful in appearance, and fat of flesh. And they fed in a meadow, and behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, evil in appearance, and lean of flesh. And they stood by the other cows upon the brink of the river, and the evil-appearing and lean-fleshed cows ate up the 7 beautiful-appearing and fat cows. And so Pharaoh awoke, and he slept and dreamed the 2nd time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk, fat and good. And behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 fat and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men of it. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my fault this day. Pharaoh was angry with his servants, and put me under guard in the captain of the guard's house, me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream one night. He and I, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there amongst us a young man, a Hebrew, a servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams to us. He interpreted to each man according to his dream, and he has interpreted to us, so it was. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him out of the dungeon. And he shaved and changed his clothing, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 cows, beautiful in appearance and fat of flesh. And they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and evil of appearance, and lean of flesh, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt, for badness. And the lean and evil-appearing cows did eat up the first 7 fat cows. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still evil of appearance, as at the beginning. And so I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered, thin, blasted with the east wind, sprang up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this to the magicians, but there was none that could open it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and evil-appearing cows that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is a thing which God has spoken to Pharaoh, what God is about to do. He shows to Pharaoh, Behold, there comes 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And since the dream was doubled to Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look for a man who is discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. That food shall be for a store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, so that the land does not perish through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find anyone like this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since God has showed you all this, no man is as discreet and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in the throne will I be greater than you are. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand. And he dressed him in clothing of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him to ride in the 2nd chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him for his wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 years of plenty the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up food in the cities. He laid up the food of the field which was round about every city in the same city. And Joseph gathered grain like the sand of the sea, very much, until he quit numbering it, for it was without number. And 2 sons were born unto Joseph before the years of famine came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, prince of On, bore him. And Joseph called the name of the first son Manasseh, for he says, God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for he said, God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the famine was in all the land, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph, and what he says to you do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine became sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph, because the famine was so sore in all the land. Chapter 42. Genesis chapter 42. Now when Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his son, Why do you look upon one another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy for us from there, so that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob, did not send with his brother, for he said, Lest perhaps mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land. He was the one that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers, and he knew them, but made himself strange to them, and spoke roughly to them. And he said to them, Where do you come from? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brothers, but they did not know him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said to them, You are spies, you have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest, your servants are not spies. And he said to them, No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said, Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said to them, That is what I spoke to you, saying, You are spies. By this ye shall be proved. By the life of Pharaoh you shall not go forth from here unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, so that your words may be proved, whether any truth is in you. Or else by the life of Pharaoh surely you are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said to them the 3rd day, Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest, let one of your brothers be bound in the house of your prison. You go carry grain for the famine of your houses, but bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words shall be proved true, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are truly guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Did I not speak to you, saying, Do not sin against the child? And you would not hear, therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they did not know that Joseph understood, for he spoke to them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about for them, and wept. And he returned to them again, and talked with them, and took Simeon from them, and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded their sacks to be filled with grain, and that every man's money be put back into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And so he did unto them. And they loaded their asses with grain, and departed from there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass fodder in the inn, he saw his money, for, behold, it was in the mouth of the sack. And he said to his brothers, My money has been put back, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their hearts failed, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that God has done to us? And they came to Jacob their father unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that happened to them, saying, The man, the lord of the land, spoke roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said to him, We are honest, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father, in the land of Canaan. And the man, the lord of the country, said to us, By this I shall know that you are honest. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for the famine of your households, and be gone, and bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but that you are honest. So I will deliver you your young brother, and you shall trade in the land. And when they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not. And now you will take Benjamin away too. All these things are against me. And Reuben spoke to his father, saying, Kill my 2 sons, if I do not bring him to you. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him to you again. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief should befall him by the way you go, then ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow unto the grave. Genesis chapter 43. And the famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass, when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said to them, Go again and buy us a little food. And Judah spoke to him, saying, The man solemnly protested to us, saying, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. And if you will send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. And Israel said, Why have you dealt so ill with me, to tell the man whether you had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us strictly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father still alive? Have you yet another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send the boy with me, and we will arise and go, so that we may live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. You shall require him of my hand. If I do not bring him to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For unless we had lingered, surely now we would have returned the second time. And their father Israel said to them, If it must be so now, do this. Take of the first fruits of the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm, and a little honey, spices, and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again to the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, so that he may send away your brother and Benjamin. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved. And the men took the present, and they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin. And they rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the rulers of his house, Bring these men home, and kill, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, Because of the money that was returned in our sacks at the first time we are brought in, so that he may seek occasion against us, and fall upon us, and take us for bondmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they talked with him at the door of the house. And they said, O sir, we indeed came down the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the inn, that we opened the sacks, and behold, every man's money in the mouth of his sack. Our money is full weight, and we have brought it again in our hands, and we have brought down other money in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks. And the steward said, Peace be unto you, do not fear. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out to them, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave fodder to the asses, and they made ready the presents for the coming of Joseph at noon, for they heard that he should eat bread there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the presents which was in their hand into the house, and bowed themselves to him to the earth. And he asked them as to their welfare, and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? And they answered, Your servant our father is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? And he said, God be gracious unto you, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels yearned toward his brother. And he sought a place to weep. And he entered into his room, and wept there. And he washed his face, and went out, and controlled himself, and said, Set the bread on. And they set it on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians may not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. And they sat before him the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. And he took messes unto them from before him, But Benjamin's mess was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. Chapter 44, Genesis chapter 44. And Joseph commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his grain money. And they did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they had gone out of the city, not far off, Joseph said to his steward, Rise up now and follow after the men. And when you overtake them, say to them, Why have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this in which my Lord drinks, and by which indeed he divines? You have done evil in so doing. And the steward overtook them, and he spoke to them these same words. And they said to him, Why does your Lord say these words? God forbid that your servant should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sack's mouth, we brought it in to you out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of your Lord's house silver or gold? With whomever of your servants it may be found, both let him die, and we all will be my Lord's bondmen. And he said, Now also let it be according to your word. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and you shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and every man opened his sack, and he searched, beginning at the oldest and leaving off at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they tore their clothes, and every man loaded his ass and returned to the city. And Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, for he was still there. And they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that such a man as I can certainly divine? And Judah said, What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God has found out the iniquity of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And he said, God forbid that I should do so. The man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace to your father. Then Judah came near and said, O my Lord, pray let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ears. And do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Do you have a father or a brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one. And his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his father, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said to my Lord, The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And you said to your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you shall see my face no more. And when we came up to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again, and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we will go down, for we may not see the man's face, unless our youngest brother is with us. And your servant my father said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons. And the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn to pieces. And I never saw him since. And if you take this also from me, and mischief befall him, you shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass that when he sees that the lad is not with us, he will die. And your servant shall bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For your servant became surety for the lad to my father, saying, If I do not bring him to you, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore, I pray you, let your servant abide instead of the boy, as a bondman to my Lord. And let the boy go up with his brothers. For how shall I go up to my father, and the boy be not with me, lest perhaps I see the evil, that shall come upon my father. Genesis chapter 45. Then Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried, Cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud. And the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? And his brothers could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said to his brothers, Come near me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Now therefore do not be grieved, nor angry with yourselves that you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there shall be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a remnant in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all of his house, and a ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry now, and go up to my father, and say to him, So says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, and do not wait. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen. And you shall be near to me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks and your herds and all that you have. And I will nourish you there, for there are still 5 years of famine, lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty. And behold, your eyes shall see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that is in my mouth that speaks to you. And ye shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and all that you have seen, and you shall hurry and bring down my father here. And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. And afterward his brothers talked with him. And the report of it was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say unto your brothers, Do this, load your beast, and go, get you into the land of Canaan, and take your father and your household, and come unto me. And I will give you the good of the land, and ye shall eat the fat of the land. Now you are commanded, do this, take wagons out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and for your wives, and bring your father, and come. And do not regard your stuff, for the good of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the children of Israel did so. And Joseph gave them wagons according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and gave them provision for the way. To all of them he gave each man changes of clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver, and 5 changes of clothing. And to his father he sent this, 10 asses loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 she-asses loaded with grain and bread and meat for his father by the way. And so he sent his brothers away, and they departed, and he said to them, See that you do not fall out by the way. And they went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan, unto Jacob their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is alive, and he is governor over all of the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he could not believe them. And they told him all the words of Joseph which he had said to them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph my son is alive. I will go and see him before I die. Genesis chapter 46. And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of your fathers. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation. I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon your eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba. And the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle and their goods which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed he brought with him into Egypt. Now these are the names of the children of Israel who came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben were Hanoch, and Phallu, and Hezron, and Carmi, and the sons of Simeon were Jemuel, and Jamin, and Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a woman of Canaan. Now the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Judah were Er, Onan, and Shelah, and Pharez, and Zara. But Er and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Pharez were Hezron and Hamul. And the sons of Issachar were Tola, and Phuvah, and Job, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun were Sered, and Elon, and Jahileel. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Pandan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. And all the souls of his sons and his daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad were Ziphion, and Haggai, Shuni, and Ezbon, Eri, and Erodai, and Erili. And the sons of Asher were Jimnah, and Ishua, and Isua, and Beriah, and Serah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah were Heber and Melchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and those whom she bore to Jacob were 16 souls. Now the sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, were Joseph and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, and Becher, and Ashbal, Gera, and Naaman, Ehi, and Rosh, Muppin, and Huppin, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, who were born to Jacob, and all the sons were 14. And the sons of Dan were Hushim. The sons of Naphtali were Jazziel, and Gunai, and Jezer, and Shilem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob. And all the souls were 7. And all the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, who came out of his loins, beside Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Egypt, were 2 souls. And all the souls of the house of Jacob, who came into Egypt, were 70. And he sent Judah before him to Joseph, to direct his face to Goshen. And they came to the land of Goshen, and Joseph made his chariot ready, and went up to meet Israel his father, to Goshen, and presented himself to him. And he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said to Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, because you are still alive. And Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's house, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brothers and my father's house, whom were in the land of Canaan, have come unto me. And the men are shepherds, for their trade has been to feed cattle. And they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and shall say, What is your occupation? Then you shall say, Your servant's trade has been about cattle, from our youth, even until now, both we and also our fathers, so that you may live in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. Chapter 47, Genesis chapter 47, this is Family Bible Reading Fellowship. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh, and said, My father and my brothers, and their flocks and their herds, and all that they have come out of the land of Canaan. And behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And he took some of his brothers, 5 men, and presented them to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. Then said moreover to Pharaoh, for we have come to live in the land, for your servants have no pasture for their flocks. For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan. Now therefore we pray you, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come unto you. The land of Egypt is before you. Make your father and brothers to live in the best of the land. In the land of Goshen let them live. And if you know of any men of ability among them, then make them rulers over my house. And Joseph brought in Jacob his father, and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said unto Jacob, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and I have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers, in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph placed his father and his brothers, and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph nourished his father and his brothers, and all his father's household with bread, according to their families. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted because of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt, and into the land of Canaan, for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money failed. And Joseph said, Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread for their horses, and for their flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. And when that year was ended, they came to him the second year, and said, We will not hide it from my lord, how that our money is spent. My lord also has our herds of cattle. There is nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants for Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. And so the land became Pharaoh's, and as for the people, he removed them to cities, from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end of it. Only he did not buy the land of the priests, for the priest had a portion from Pharaoh, and ate their portion which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that you shall give a fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own, for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your household, and for food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law of the land of Egypt to this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, excepting only the land of the priests, which did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel lived in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen. And they had possessions in it, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so that the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. And the time drew near that he must die. And he called his son Joseph, and said to him, If now I have found grace in your sight, I pray you put your hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. I pray you, do not bury me in Egypt, but I will lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in their burying place. And he said, I will do as you have said. And he said, Swear unto me. And he swore unto him. And Israel bowed himself upon the bed's head. Genesis, we begin reading now chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, your son Joseph comes to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said to me, Behold, I will make you fruitful, and multiply you. And I will make of you a multitude of people, and will give this land to your seed after you for an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons Ephraim and Manasseh, who are born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. Like Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. And your issue which you beget after them shall be yours, and shall be called after the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padam, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan in the way, when there was still but a little way to come to Ephrath. And I buried her there in the way of Ephrath. The same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's son, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, These are my sons, whom God has given me in this place. And he said, I pray you, bring them to me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought I would see your face, and lo, God has showed me also your seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and he brought them near to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, May God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who fed me all my life unto this day, the angel who redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put your right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he is, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In you shall Israel bless, saying, God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, Behold, I die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again into the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite, with my sword and with my bow. Chapter 49. And Jacob called to his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed. Then you defiled it. You went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, do not come into their secret. Let not my honor be united with their assembly. For in their anger they killed a man, and in their self-will they dug down a wall. Let their anger be cursed, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. In Judah may your brothers praise you. May your hand be in the neck of your enemies. May your father's children bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. My son, you have gone up from the prey. He stooped, he crouched like a lion, like a strong lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And the gathering of the people shall be unto him, binding his fowl to the vine, and his ass's colt to the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun shall live at the haven of the sea, and he shall be a haven for ships, and his border shall be unto Sidon. Issachar is a strong ass crouching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and that the land was pleasant. And he bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that bites the horse's heels, so that its rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And out of Ashur his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He gives goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a well, whose daughters run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel, even by the God of your father, who shall help you, and by the Almighty, who shall bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lie under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that tears in pieces. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father spoke to them, and blessed them. Every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my father in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, the cave which Abraham bought with the field of Ephraim the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is in it was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into his bed, and yielded up the spirit, and he was gathered unto his people. Chapter 50. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Israel, and 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so they are fulfilled the days of those who are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, I pray you speak to the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. You shall bury me in my grave, which I have dug for me in the land of Canaan. Now therefore I pray you, let me go up and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father according as he made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and all the servants of Pharaoh went up with him, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all of the house of Joseph, and his brothers, and his father's house. They left only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds in the land of Goshen. And both chariots and horsemen went up with him, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Therefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And his sons did to him according as he commanded them, for he was carried to the land of Canaan and buried in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place from Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Joseph entered into Egypt, he and his brothers, and all that went up with him to bury his father after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will perhaps hate us, and will certainly repay us all the evil which we did unto him. And they sent a messenger to Joseph, saying, Your father did command before he died, saying, So shall you say to Joseph, Forgive, I pray you now, the trespass of your brothers and their sin. For they did evil to you, and we pray you forgive now the trespass of the servants of God, the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we are your servants. And Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save a great many people alive. Now therefore do not fear, I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph lived in Egypt, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. Also the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brothers, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land into the land which he swore to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from here. And so Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. This concludes the reading of the book of Genesis.